Sergei was returning home after 7 years of absence. Or rather, he made an attempt to return. He did not know what awaited him in his native village after so many years, and what would happen to his family. After all, he didn't call and wasn't interested all these years. And all because he abandoned them, and as he thought, forever. But life unfolded in such a way that today he had nowhere to live, and he decided to bow to his wife and son, with whom he had once acted so vilely. He looked out the window of the bus. Everything was so familiar, but at the same time forgotten around him. You need to think about where to stay. He was afraid to go straight home to Nadezhda, in case she wouldn't be happy. Once upon a time, he was the first guy in the village. He could choose any girl. So he chose, then he would walk with one, then with the other. And Nadezhda was simply in love with him until she lost her memory. He saw and felt it, but she was an unapproachable and modest girl. And Sergei decided to take this fortress at any cost, and then we'll see. He fought for a long time before she gave up. Nadezhda sincerely believed that marriage came first, and then everything else, but still believed Sergei. He told her a lot of things, but in fact, he had no intention of getting married. Although she was beautiful, he liked her, but there were also a lot of other beautiful girls. In general, I decided that I would still have plenty of walks, and then suddenly unexpected news. Nadia is pregnant. He then still wanted to escape from the village, but his father intervened. "I'll curse you," he said, "if you abandon your child. There was no such meanness in our family. If you spoil a girl, get married." And he got married. True, at first he tried to persuade Nadia to have an abortion, even giving money for the operation, but she flatly refused. At first, they lived well, a son was born, everything was like everyone else. But Sergei still often secretly walked to the left, especially when he was in the city on business trips. And when Yegor was little, about 5 years old, he somehow fell off his bicycle and everything was cut off, as if he had forgotten how to walk. Nadia immediately left work. Since then, they haven't been home with their son. They've been to hospitals and for examinations. She spent a lot of time with her son, and all the costs of treatment fell on Sergei's shoulders. He tried for 3 whole years. Well, how long is it possible? He had just turned 30 then, the age when you want to live. Several times he tried to explain to his wife that all this treatment was completely useless. "Nadia, please understand finally. If they couldn't do anything right away, now they certainly won't be able to. Why transfer money to no avail? What are you saying, Seryozha? This is our son. We need to grab every opportunity, you know? I just found out that in Moscow they can perform an operation on him and get him back on his feet, although he needs a decent amount of money. I've already started saving. I understand that, but why do I have to work hard from morning to night? And I can't even go anywhere further than the village." Nadia was slightly taken aback. "Nadia, I'm still young, but I just work in the air. I don't know how long I can last like this." While his wife and child lived permanently in a hospital, Sergei took a mistress in the city. In general, he left home and also grabbed all the money that Nadezhda was saving for her son's operation. His wife begged on her knees. "Not now," she begged. But he already had a place ready in the city without children and family worries. And the money is compensation for the fact that he leaves the whole house to them. On the threshold, Sergei looked back and caught his son's gaze. It was not a child's gaze. It showed disgust and hatred. Sergei even felt uneasy from this look. And now, after 7 years, he was left with nothing. His mistress kicked him out of the house in what he was wearing. Having nowhere to go, he decided that he would be accepted back into the family. Sergei got off the bus and slowly walked along the familiar road. But he wasn't at home. In its place stood a 2-story mansion with well-groomed grounds and an expensive car next to the gate. Sergei approached the gate when suddenly a huge dog jumped out to meet him with a loud bark. It seemed that this beast was about to swallow the uninvited guest whole. But the man did not leave. He wanted to check with the new owners where his family had moved. Finally, the door of the house opened, and a young man appeared on the threshold, holding a gun in his hands. Fists are clenched, eyes are dark. He silently aimed his gun at Sergei. "Lord, it's Yegor." The father of his own son found out, and he saw that same look again. "Son, what are you doing? Put down the gun. It's me, your father." but Yegor continued to silently aim at him. The dog no longer rushed at the uninvited guest, but sat next to the boy and seemed to shield him from any trouble. Sergei turned to him again. "Put the gun down. We need to talk. I'm not a stranger." "You are not a stranger. You are worse than all strangers," Yegor answered his father. "Go away. You stole the money that was set aside for the operation. You left us in such a position that you wouldn't wish it on your enemy. You didn't pay your mother a penny. Go away and never come close to our house. Otherwise, I'll unleash the dog on you." Sergei visibly became afraid, began to back away, and at that very moment collided with Nadezhda. She recognized him immediately, but walked past him as if he were empty. Sergei tried to talk to her, but she didn't even turn around at his voice. "No need, son. Why ruin your life over something like this? Everything is ahead of you." She gently took the gun from Yegor's hands, lured the dog into the house, and closed the door from the inside. Sergei stood at the gate for a little longer and then went to his friend Vitka. "Why didn't you come to me right away but went to Nadia?" The friend was surprised. "Did you think she was alone? After all, she loved her so much, she crawled at her feet so she wouldn't throw her away. She kissed her shoes." Sergei was not just surprised, he was amazed. "Where did they get this condition? New house, car." "You're a bastard, Seryoga," his friend reproached him. "Didn't you even notice that your son walks with his own feet?" "I looked more at the gun," Sergei made excuses. "So where does all this come from? And it all happened through that same dog you saw running around in the yard? Here one businessman bought a house of local oligarchs in our village. And this dog is with him." And they began to go hunting with her into the forest. And one day, the dog ran away from the yard into the forest and got lost. The man looked for him, called him, but he disappeared without a trace. And 3 days later, Nadezhda brought him home, dirty and tattered. She went to pick mushrooms and heard a dog barking and calling for help. It turned out that he wandered into a swamp and fell through there. I don't know how he wasn't completely sucked in. And I also can't imagine how a fragile woman managed to pull such a colossus out of the swamp, but nevertheless, she returned his pet to the owner alive. Well, he seemed to thank me and even gave me some kind of reward. And then more interesting events developed. The dog became so attached to his savior that every morning he ended up on her porch. The owner will take him home and he will return to Nadezhda's house. He guards them and his son all night. And nothing can be done. The owner fought with him, and then he moved to live with Nadezhda. He built a new house instead of the old one and performed an operation on Yegorka at a great expense. But he just can't marry Nadezhda because she's still married to you, the asshole. Well, since you've arrived, it means the divorce will be processed quickly. Why do they need you now?